Today we will discuss about the angiotensin, renin and angiotensin system. That's from 1 to 7. Especially, it is having certain relations with that of the renin and angiotensin receptor subtypes. So this angiotensin 1 to 7 is a heptapeptide that can be produced from angiotensin 1 or 2 by the action of another carboxypeptidase labeled ACE2. ACE means angiotensin converting enzyme 2. In animals, angiotensin 1 to 7 produces the effects which are in general opposite to angiotensin 2, including this nitric oxide dependent vasodilatation, anti-thrombotic and anti-ischemic and anti-proliferative effects by binding to a proton cogene receptor. So, proton or cogene, which is oncogene receptor. The clinically used ACE inhibitors do not inhibit ACE2, ACE1 only they are going to inhibit, rather than when these drugs are given in the level of angiotensin 1 and 7 are increased due to the diversion of angiotensin 1 from the ACE and inhibition of the angiotensin 1 to 7. And apart from this one, many attempts are being made to therapeutically exploit the angiotensin 2 related peptides. Angiotensin 2 related peptides. So, and now the thing is, the angiotensin 2 and other things are also involved in the various fibrosis and dilatation of the infarcted area with hypertrophy of ventricular wall, and this is seen after the myocardial infarction. And of course, the progressive myocyte death and fibrotic transformation occurs in the congestive heart failure, and these changes are important risk factor for the cardiovascular morbidity and mortality. So, whenever the renin angiotensin system is hampered, there is a chance that the cardiac myocyte death will occur, and which will lead to the CHF. And these changes are important risk factors for the cardiovascular collapse. And ACE inhibitors therapy or the angiotensin conversion enzymes are there, inhibitors are there, and reverses many of these changes, imparting a pivotal role to angiotensin 2 in the vascular and ventricular hypertrophy, apoptosis, and remodeling. As described above, the local RAS and prorenin systems are crucial in these responses. And inhibition of renin angiotensin systems. Yes, this is a pharmacologically very important thing, so that many antihypertensive drugs have been developed. So the inhibition of the renin angiotensin system can happen by the blockers of the sympathetic nervous system, especially the beta blockers, and they are going to block the adrenergic neurons, blockers central sympatholytics, and decrease in the renin synthesis. So indirectly they are going to act on the renin angiotensin system. Then direct renin inhibitors are there. They are also abbreviated as DRIs, and they block renin action and interference with the renin angiotensin system. The renin angiotensin system, another thing is that DRIs and angiotensin converting enzyme, that's the ACE inhibitors. ACE inhibitors are also very important class of the drug which prevent generation of the active principle of the angiotensin 2. And angiotensin receptor blockers like angiotensinase the action of the angiotensin 2 on the target cell. Apart from this one, there are varieties of the aldosterone inhibitors or the aldosterone antagonists, and these will block the mineralocorticoid receptors. So all the sympathetic blockers, direct renin inhibitors, angiotensin converting enzyme or ACE inhibitors, and the ARBs, angiotensin receptor blockers, and aldosterone antagonists, these are all play an important role in controlling the blood pressure of an individual. And angiotensin converting enzyme system, that's the one of the important systems, especially in case of this autocoid pharmacology. And teprotide is the first ACE inhibitor to be synthesized, taking a lead from bradykinin. Whereas the other drugs we have already discussed about the sympathetic blocker and direct renin inhibitors. Of course, they do not have much pharmacological significance. And teprotide was the first ACE inhibitor to be synthesized, taking a lead from bradykinin potentiating factor found in pit viper venom, and the finding that the kinase 2 was also the angiotensin convertase enzyme 2. And teprotide is a nonapeptide inhibited generation of the angiotensin 2 from angiotensin 1 and lower the BP. But it had the limitations of parenteral administration and very brief duration of action. Hence, the clinical practice has been reduced. Whereas the captopril, it is one of the classical drug and the monotype, especially in the ACE inhibitors. So it is an orally active dipeptide analog. It is introduced in 1977. Then, after the 1977, when it is introduced, later a lot of the ACE inhibitors are being used in the clinical practice to control the blood pressure, especially the ACE inhibitors. So the examples of this category are captopril, enalapril, lisinopril, benzapril, rimipril, and fosinopril, quinalapril, and many more prils are there which are ACE inhibitors. So captopril is one of the classical example, and many others are marketed nowadays, and in every year one or the other two products are coming from different pharmaceutical agencies with little bit change in the properties. The pharmacology of the captopril is prescribed as the monotype, prototype. So since most of the effects are class effects common to all the ACE inhibitors, and the captopril, it is the classical example of this category. Then it's a sulfhydryl containing dipeptide, surrogate of the proline, which abolishes the pressor action of the angiotensin 1, but not the angiotensin 2. It does not block the angiotensin receptor 1 or 2 type of the receptor. And ACE, angiotensin conversion enzyme, is a relatively non-specific enzyme, and it splits the dipeptidyl segment from several peptides, including bradykinin, substance P. So, and apart from this ACE, it also inhibits going to splice bradykinin, substance P, and a natural stem regulating peptide, etc. In addition to angiotensin 1, it converts 1 to 2. And as such, captopril increases plasma kinin levels and potentiate the hypotensive actions of exogenously administered bradykinin. So captopril, it increases the plasma kinin levels and potentiates the hypotensive action of exogenously administered bradykinin. Brady means the dilatation, bradycardia, like that. Treatment with the B2 type kinin receptor antagonist has been shown that the kinins do not contribute to the acute vasodepressor action of the ACE inhibitors, but they appear to have little role in the long-term hypotensive effect, and they produce, especially they firstly produce the kinins play a minor role, whereas but they appear to have little role in the long-term hypotensive effect, probably because firstly kinins play a minor role, if at all, BP regulation, and secondly another enzyme, that's the kinase 2, which is also a degradative product of the bradykinin. So it is not inhibited when compared to the earlier drug. So captopril is very commonly used. It is marked. It has a marked. This is more marked when sodium has been depleted by dietary restriction of the diuretics, because renin level will be high at that time. And in the congestive heart failure, the renin level is raised, and antihypertensive doses of captopril cause marked fall in the blood pressure initially, and then the ACE inhibitors therapy in this situation has been initiated as much lower doses. So a greater fall in the blood pressure occurs in renovascular accelerated and malignant hypertension. Here, so the malignant hypertension is a condition unresponsive to the regular antihypertensive agent. And in essential hypotension, it has been found that the RAS is overactive and 20% normal in case of 60% hypoactive in the rest. So the kinetics of this captopril is about 70% of the orally administered captopril is absorbed orally. Then the presence of the food reduces the bioavailability of the captopril, and penetration in the brain is poor. So the CNS activity is not seen in the case of the captopril. So it is partly metabolized and partly excreted unchanged in the urine. Let's say the plasma T half is about 2 hours, but actions last for 6 to 12 hours. This is the very brief pharmacokinetic in just 4 lines, because we do not have much time to read the detailed pharmacokinetics of the every drug. So this is the regular characteristic of many more drugs. Maybe enalapril and tensopril and so many other drugs have got the similar pharmacokinetic parameters. And presence of food in stomach reduces the bioavailability of the most of the drug except a few are. And the general side effects of the ACE inhibitors are, so it is usually well tolerated by most of the patients, but if daily dose is kept below 150 milligram per day, especially in case of human being. And hypotension, so there will be a sharp fall in blood pressure occurs, especially in the diuretic treated and CHF patients. So it's a congestive heart failure patients, the heart gets enlarged in these particular persons, and they get the heartbeat is little bit low, and there will be initial low BP, or no, there will be very high BP due to the congestive heart failure. And in this situation, the loop diuretics or thiazide type of the diuretics are used, and whenever we use such diuretics, initially there will be a fall in BP, and later this is maintained by the ACE inhibitors. So especially in case of the persons with myocardial inhibitions, myocardial infarctions patients, then this captopril and a diuretic are very commonly used. And here there is a comparative feature of some ACE inhibitors. Example, the captopril, enalapril, lisinopril, fesinopril, and so many drugs. Whereas the chemical nature, it has got the sulfhydryl group, whereas the other drugs will have the enalapril with carboxyl group, linezolid with carboxyl group, and the later two drugs, we have carboxyl group, whereas the fesinopril has got the phosphonate group. So accordingly, the physical property and physiological property changes. So activity status, this is active, and the enalapril is a prodrug which is converted to captopril, and this is an active drug, lisinopril, whereas the fesinopril is a prodrug, and all others are the prodrug, and in the body they are converted to the active principles. The bioavailability, of course, the captopril is 70%, and the enalapril 50%, lisinopril 25%, and it ranges from 30 to 60% in the other drugs. So time taken to reach the peak action is 1 hour, to 6 hours depending upon the type of drug. That's 1 hour in case of captopril and 3 to 6 hours in case of ramipril, and perindopril, that's 6 hours. That's the long acting drug. So the elimination half-life from the body is 2 hours in case of captopril, 11 hours, 12 hours, especially in case of enalapril and lisinopril respectively. Whereas it is the T half is 12 hours, and of course as the time to take the peak action is 6 hours, so the T half is also more, 25 to 30 hours in case of perindopril. And the mode of excretion, all the drugs follow the renal route, or sometimes the fascinopril, it is having some different moiety, phosphonate moiety, it will also follow the hepatobiliary route. The duration of action of almost all the drugs vary from the 6 to 24 hours, especially 6 to 12 hours in case of captopril, 24 hours in case of the enalapril. Yes, of course, it is less than 24 hours in case of the fascinopril, perindopril and ramipril. So the daily dose of the captopril is very little high. It should be less than 150 milligram, 25 to 150. So enalapril 2.5 to 40. And similarly, the dose of perindopril is less, 2 to 8 milligram per kg per day to an adult human being. So the T half here indicates the T half of the active metabolite. Of course, the enalapril is an active metabolite, this prodrug, whereas it is converted to the captopril. And enalapril, this second ACE inhibitor to be introduced. It's a prodrug and de-esterified in the liver to enalaprilat. So it's a tripeptide analog, and this is not used such as orally because of the poor absorption, but it is marketed as injectable preparation, enalapril. So whenever there is a very high BP, then enalapril injections are given. So enalapril has some pharmacological, therapeutic and adverse effect profile as very similar to that of the captopril, as the biological active ingredient, that's the enalaprilat, and it has got certain advantages. Just like the more potency, then the effective dose is just 5 to 20 milligram once daily or once daily or twice a daily, and it absorption is not affected by the food. That's very, very important point, because most of the enalapril capsules are given after the lunch is over to a patient, then the absorption is not affected at all by the food. That's an advantage. Whereas the captopril, the food hinders the absorption. So the absorption is erratic in intestine. Okay. Whereas this enalapril, the onset of action is slow, so it need to convert from the prodrug to its metabolite, so enalaprilat. So this less liable to cause abrupt first dose hypotension. Usually the ACE inhibitors, as they are the very fast actors, suddenly they decrease the BP to lower than the basal one. So this type of the side effect is not observed, the sudden hypotension after administration of the drug. So this has a longer duration of action, and most hypertensives can be treated with single daily dose. So here the advantage of the administration of this drug, it has got the very specific anti-hypertensive effect without any sudden hypotension. And rashes and lot of taste are usually less common or less frequent in nature. The another drug, that's the lisinopril, we have seen all the properties of this drug in the table. So it is the lysine derivative of the enalaprilat and does not require hydrolysis to become the active ACE inhibitor. And its oral absorption is slow, making first dose hypotension less likely and incomplete, but unaffected by the food as usual. In case of enalapril, lisinopril is also not affected by the presence of the food for the absorption. and the duration of action is considerably long when compared to the earlier pre-drugs. And because of this thing, the 24 hours action is permitting single daily dose and ensuring uniform hypotensive action around the clock. Whereas if you administer the captopril, then the action is just 3 to 6 hours, then suddenly it is also going to cause the hypotension. Then a reduction in venous return, cardiac contractility and cardiac output has been noted after few weeks of linaclotide use. So it is having a good effect on hypertensive patients. So another drug, that's the perindopril. So it is long-acting ACE inhibitor with a slow onset of action and less chance of the first dose hypertension. So you have to see this particular side effect of the ACE inhibitors, that they will have the first dose hypertension. First dose hypotension. Please remember the word first dose hypotension. So I will enlarge this also and put some color. The first dose hypotension. So this is called by most of the earlierly developed these ACE inhibitors, and it is converted to 66 to 95% of the oral administered, and perindopril is absorbed only about 20% and is converted to the active metabolite perindopril. Just like the enalapril, it is going to be changed to perindopril. So extensive metabolism to other inactive products also occur many times, and the fesinopril is another drug, and this ACE inhibitor is unique, being a phosphonate compound. So this is undergoing both the renal as well as the biliary excretion, and this is glucuronide conjugated and eliminated body by both liver and kidney. That's the characteristic feature. So the T half is not altered by the renal impairment, and the dose remains same, because many of the patients with hypertension, because of the continuous pressure, the kidney will be damaged in many patients. But the fesinopril, the active metabolites or the metabolites are excreted through liver, and hence it is not depending upon the kidney for getting rid of the body. So, however, like most others, it's a pro-drug suitable once daily administration. That's very, very important thing. Once daily administration. It is a advantage. Just in the morning or the evening, the patient can take it, and the entire day he will be under the good hypotensive state. Suddenly, this is not going to cause the hypotension. And ramiprillin, it is the distinctive feature of this drug is its extensive tissue distribution or the plasma protein binding, and greater inhibition of the local RAS system has been claimed. It is affecting the renin-angiotensin system, and however, this confers any therapeutic advantage is not there, but it has got the RAS inhibitory property. The plasma T-half of the active metabolite, just like the ramipril, is 8 to 18 hours, but the terminal T-half is longer due to the slow release of the tissue plasma protein bound drug. So the another added advantage is it is having more plasma protein binding and the more prolonged duration, or else the almost all the properties are similar to the enalapril and other drugs, fesinopril, etc. And the quinalapril is a pro-drug, and the carboxy-ACE inhibitor that is rapidly and completely converted in the liver to the form quinalaprilat. So very properly, it is the metabolite which is going to act on the RAS system. So this is highly bound to ACE and exhibits a biphasic T plasma half of 2 hours and 24 hours. So This is also eliminated through the urine and bile in the ratio of 2:1. Means it is depending for on the urine for the major excretion process. So the few of the other drugs like trandolapril, and it's a carboxy prodrug, and 40 to 60% bioavailable in the active form, and the absorption is delayed but not decreased by the food, and the peak effect occurs at 4 to 6 hours. It is partly metabolized and eliminated both in urine and also in case of the feces. The plasma T-HAP of the active metabolite is biphasic, means the 10 to 24 hours. So even though the action of the drug decreases after a few hours, once again it is maintained up to 24 hours, and it is suitable for daily dosing by oral route. And imidacloprid, the oral bioavailability of this long acting prodrug ACE inhibitor is 40%, which is reduced by the taking the food. So that's why, apart from, unlike that of the enalapril, this is not advisable to give after the food, and the peak effect especially occurs in 6 to 8 hours, and the plasma T-HAP is more than 24 hours. So if you just administer this drug once in 24 hours, that's enough for the patient. And benazepril is another non-sulfhydryl prodrug of the ACE inhibitor and has a bioavailability of 37% and is excreted by kidney with a T-HAP of 10 to 12 hours. So the T-HAP is also medium range. Whereas the users of these ACEs, angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitors, are the classical action is on treatment of the hypertension. So they are the first line drugs in all grade of hypertension, maybe the prolonged hypertension or acute hypertension or whatever it may be. So ACE inhibitors are the first line drugs, and the angiotensin receptor blockers have suppressed them in the popularity, whereas the ARBs, angiotensin receptor blockers, have now, they are taking upper hand, especially apart from this one of the ACE inhibitors. And CHF, are both arteriolar and vasodilatation in CHF patients and reduce afterloaded as well as the preload. And of course, these are the drugs once upon a time were very commonly prescribed for the CHF as well as the MI or myocardial infarction. And oral ACE inhibitors are continued for 6 weeks and reduced early as long-term therapy. So long-term therapy need to be avoided. And in case of prophylaxis in high cardiovascular risk subjects, the results of the heart outcomes, especially prevention and evaluation or HOPE study in varieties of the patients, and the post-myocardial infarction, and excluding the other high-risk factors but having no left ventricular dysfunction or heart failure, have shown that the ramipril reduced cardiac death and MI, stroke by 22% over a period of 4.5 years. So that means the prophylaxis use of these drugs is also possible, so that the myocardial infarction, development of the myocardial infarction and of the hypertension is decreased. The risk of developing heart failure is also reduced, and also the diabetes is found to be reduced. So these results have been confirmed by Europa trials and appear to hold true even for patients who have undergone coronary revascularization. So this is known as APRIS trial. The ACE inhibitors are protective in high cardiovascular risk subjects, means the persons who are having lot of cardiovascular risk. So even in these patients, it is not associated with the hypertension or left ventricular dysfunction. And protective role is exerted both on myocardium as well as on the vasculature and may involve the improved epithelial function and is independent of the hypotensive action. So here unlike the other drugs, especially the antihypertensive drugs, there is no sudden fall in the hypertension or the blood pressure. So then the diabetic nephropathy is prolonged diabetic nephropathy. This ACE inhibitor therapy has been found to this, especially the prolonged ACE inhibitor therapy has been found to prevent delay and stage renal disease in case of the type 1 as well as the type 2 diabetes and non-diabetic nephropathy. And the diabetic induced nephropathy is one of the most common clinical signs. The kidney damage will occur, and of course there are the non-diabetic nephropathic patients are also there. There is evidence now that chronic renal failure due to the non-diabetic causes may also be improved by ACE inhibitors. And scleroderma crisis is a very characteristic terminology here. The scleroderma crisis, the marked rise in blood pressure, deterioration and of the renal function in scleroderma crisis is mediated by angiotensin 2 receptors or angiotensin 2 which acts on such receptors. And ACE inhibitors produce dramatic improvement and are life-saving, especially in case of the scleroderma crisis. So this is a condition in which there will be a very acute rise in case of BP and deterioration of the renal function. And the condition can be effectively treated with the ACE inhibitors. So coming to the some other agents, especially the angiotensin antagonists, or they are also called as angiotensin receptor blockers, or in short, they can be called as ARBs. And these include varieties of the drugs, like you might have heard the name of losartan, candestan, then olsartan, telmisartan, that's olmesartan and irbesartan. All these drugs are the angiotensin receptor blockers or ARBs. The first classical drug is the losartan, and it is a competitive antagonist and inverse agonist, and 10,000 times more selective for angiotensin 1 receptor than the angiotensin 2 receptor. The valsartan, the 81 receptor affinity for the valsartan is similar to that of the losartan. And some of the other drugs are irbesartan, or of course, the recently introduced drugs. The oral bioavailability is, IRB, is relatively high, and it is partly metabolized and excreted mainly in bile. That's one of the important thing. And olmesartan, another potent ARB with very high affinity for angiotensin 1 receptor, and it is available as an ester prodrug which is completely hydrolyzed during absorption from the gut. And telmisartan is a very commonly used drug in case of the hypertension, and then it is going to 81 receptor blocking action is similar to that of the losartan, but it does not produce any active metabolite, whereas the other drugs do follow. And the use of these angiotensin receptor blockers have same overall ranges of the ACE inhibitors, very similar to that of the ACE inhibitors. They are used, and the value of combined use of the ACE inhibitors and ARBs, that it is having the versus monotherapy is also still unsettled. Means whether if you can you use the both drugs, ACE inhibitors and ARBs together. So that is under the clinical trial. Of course, they should be useful. and hypertension, the losartan and other ARBs are now first-line drugs, especially comparable in efficacy and desirable features of the ACE inhibitor. That's why the ACE inhibitors are totally replaced by the ARBs. ARBs means angiotensin receptor blockers. And these have the advantage of not inducing cough and a lower incidence of the angioedema. And anything which inhibits the renin-angiotensin system, the patients will have a little cough and a lower incidence of angioedema. Apart from this one, the rashes and dysphagia or the problem in the heart, especially the CHF, the ARB suffered clear-cut treatment of the particular CHF congestive heart failure. So congestive heart failure is a problem in the patients whose kidney is not properly working and there is cardiomegaly. So the digitalis type of the cardioplegia and ARBs are the one combined together to treat the angiotensin receptor blocking to the CHF, congestive heart failures. And in case of myocardial infarction, as usual in case of these ACE inhibitors, the evidence is so far indicates that the utility of ARBs in myocardial infarction is also good, including long-term survival is comparable to that of the ACE inhibitors. Means these are having very similar action to that of the ACE inhibitors in myocardial infarction. So if a patient has already suffered from the myocardial infarction, so to avoid such strokes or reoccurring, the losartan and the other drugs are usually used. And especially in case of diabetic nephropathy, several studies have confirmed that ARBs are the renoprotective in case of type 2 diabetes mellitus, and it is independent of BP lowering, even though it is not going to cause the BP lowering and causes the BP lowering to some extent, and it has got the renoprotective action in case of type 2 diabetes mellitus. The magnitude of benefit is comparable to that of the ACE inhibitors, but because of the better tolerability and because of the tolerability of these compounds with lesser side effects, ARBs are the first choice of the drugs in case of the anti-hypertensive drugs or the hypertension. So ARBs are prescribed first, followed by the ACE inhibitors. So earlier, ACE inhibitors, use of the ACE inhibitor was very, very common, and it has served as a magic drug in CHFs. Yes, apart from this one, the direct renin inhibitors are also there. They are stopping the secretion of renin, and they are called as the direct renin inhibitors or DRIs, are the latest classes of the ROS inhibitory drugs, of which only one member is important, that's the aliskiren. Aliskiren has become available for the treatment of cardiovascular and renal disease in case of the human beings, whereas the ACE inhibitors and ARBs are currently used. So the congestive cardiac failure is a very common trend in case of the cattle as well as in case of the dogs. And this telmisartan, etc. can be prepared, especially aliskiren is a non-peptide which binds selectively to the catalytic site of the renin and competitively blocks the access of angiotensin to this particular site. So it is going to replace the renin from binding set and produces the blocks, especially the temporary blocks. And the kinetics of this particular drug, that's the aliskiren, is very, very popular nowadays when compared to the earlier agents like the ACE inhibitors. But however, even though after arrival of these newer agents, the use of the older agents has not stopped to the greater extent because they have got the separate advantages over these aliascarine, etc. And plasma kinins are two, and these are also the attackoids. Bradykinin and calidin are the two important polypeptides and split off from the plasma globulin, that's the kininogen, by the action of specific enzymes kallikreins. So please see that plasma kinins are polypeptides split off from the plasma globulin kininogen by the action of the kallikreins. So the bradykinin and calidin are the two important kinins, especially the calidin. It's a decapeptide, means it is containing 8 peptides in the body, whereas the bradykinin is a nonapeptide. And the hypotensive activity of these drugs derived from urine and not drugs, of course, these are the endogenous substances. Hypotensive activity is derived from urine and certain snake venoms. So it has got severe hypotensive property, and they contained the enzymes that generate active substances in the plasma. And kinins are generated by proteolytic reactions triggered by tissue injury, inflammation, allergic reaction, etc. So, kinins are very specific endogenous substances which are generated by proteolytic reactions triggered by the plasma injury, inflammation, allergic reaction, and many more. The plasma tissue also contain kininogenase inhibitory effects, of which the complement esterase inhibitor is the most important thing. However, the kallikreins are normally present in their inactive form and they are converted to active form. And physiologically, only small amounts of the kinins are generated in plasma and tissue, whereas the kinins are very rapidly degraded by the lungs. Please see the metabolic organ, that's the lung. But also the other tissues, of course, the liver, and have a half-life of less than 1 minute. Simply see the endogenously derived kinins have got the half-life of less than 1 minute. And the principal degrading enzyme is kininase 2, is also known as angiotensin 2 converting enzyme, or ACE. This splits off 2 amino acids from the carboxy terminal of the peptide chain of these kinase. Either that's the carboxy peptide, that's the kinase 1, removes only 1 amino acid, that's the arginine, and prodrug selective B1 as receptor agonists metabolites. So this des-arginine bradykinin and des-arginine calidin, both are there, which are further degraded by other peptidases. And the actions of this bradykinin and calidin, they are having very similar actions. And the cardiovascular system, they are the most potent vasodilators than acetylcholine and histamine. Please underline this thing. Kinins are the more potent vasodilators than ACH and histamines. So the vasodilatation is mediated through endothelial norepinephrine, not nitric oxide, or so the dilatation will be due to EDRF, endothelial derived relaxing factor, and PGI2 generation, and involves mainly the arteriole. So they get dilated, and hence it causes the anti-hypertensive action or hypotensive in nature. Larger arteries, most veins and vessels with damaged endothelium are constricted through direct action on the smooth muscles. And larger arteries, of course, they can release the histamine and mediators from the mast cell. That's one of the disadvantage of these agents. Especially the kinins cause flushing, throbbing headache, and especially the fall in BP. Kinins, as usual, the migraine is caused by the kinins, and they markedly increase capillary permeability due to suppression of the endothelial cells. Of course, the exudation and inflammation occurs if they are injected to a particular tissue, indicating that these also play an important role in exudation and inflammation, especially in case of such procedures. The intradermal injection produces wheal and flare, just like the histamine. Of course, these are not the histamine, and histamine, that's of course the bradykinin and kinins are always very much required in case of the inflammation. Inflammatory fluid can also be formed by the kinins, the histamines, the prostaglandins, and many more, leukotrienes, etc. Interleukins and leukotrienes. And generation and degradation of the plasma kinins. So here you can see that the plasma kininogen is converted to bradykinin by plasma kallikrein, and also the trypsin and few of the venoms. They are going to convert the HMW kininogen to bradykinin, and bradykinin is later converted to ARG bradykinin with the help of the enzyme kinase 2. Whereas the kinase 2 enzyme is going to convert the bradykinin and kallidin to inactive peptides. Whereas the kallidin is acted by the same enzyme kinase 1, and desarginine kallidin is get excreted. Whereas the this especially the LMW kininogen, plasma kininogen, is also acted by tissue kallikrein, especially in the case of kidney, glands, and CNS, and the kallidin is converted to inactive peptides. Whereas the plasmin, especially Higman factor, is contract and activation, and pre-kallikrein is going to form. And on the smooth muscles, the kinin-induced contraction of these muscles is, of course, slow. It is also known as the brady. Brady means slow. Kinin means to move, or just like kinetics, kinin means to move from one place to another. Means slow movement of the intestine is caused by the bradykinins, and they cause marked bronchoconstriction in guinea pigs and asthmatic patients. So they are not indicated, especially. The action on other smooth muscles is not so prominent, and some may be relaxed also. And on the neurons, kinins strongly stimulate nerve endings that transmit pain and produce a burning or tingling sensations, especially on the nerve endings and appendices. Applied to blister base injected or intraperitoneally or in the brachial artery, the bradykinin produces intense transient pain and has been used in the analgesic testing. So, especially in case of the analgesic testing, the bradykinins and the kinins are injected intraarterially and see the pain threshold of these particular animals. And kinins release the catecholamines from the adrenal medulla. So, they are going, these CAs are going to act in lot of matter, especially the CAs or catecholamines. They increase permeability of the blood-brain barrier. Hence, the drug passes through the blood-brain barrier, not only itself, but also some other drugs which can pass through blood-brain barrier. And the kidney, kinin increases renal blood flow as well as the facilitates salt and water excretion by the action on the renal tubules. And kinin receptors are very specific type of the receptors, and there are two kinds. One is B1 and B2 type of the receptors are there. And the bradykinin and calidin are selective agonists of beta 2 type of the receptors, and most of them kinins action in non-inflammatory tissues are mediated by beta 2 type of the receptors, which are consecutively present on number one is the visceral smooth muscles, then there will be contraction of the intestine, there will be contraction of the uterus, and also the airway, means there will be bronchoconstriction, and hence many times it is going to increase the asthma, especially in the patients who do suffer from such disease. So the action of the kinase is through beta 1, not beta 1, B1 and B2, whereas the action, especially in case of the what you call as the bradykinin and calidin, which have got the selective agonists, especially on B2 type of the receptors. Whereas the another this thing receptor is also applied on the vascular endothelial cells. Whereas in this nitric oxide release, vasodilatation is caused, then increased permeability will be caused, and the third action is on the sensory nerves. It induces very, very acute pain. And pathophysiological condition, pathophysiology, mediation of the inflammation. Canins produce all the signs of the inflammation. That's the rhubarb, tumor, calor, and dolor, like redness, aggregation, pain, leukocyte mobilization, and all these are caused by the canins. Tissue injury can cause local kinin production, which then sets in motion about the defense and separate process. Then activation of B1 receptors on macrophages induces the production of interleukin 1, tumor necrosis factor alpha, and other inflammatory mediators. Hence, kinins appear to play important role in allergic inflammation, and it also causes the angioedema, means edema of the heart, and rhinitis, and also the asthma. And the pain is mediated by the particular compounds by directly stimulating the nerve endings and by increasing the prostaglandin production. And they appear to serve as the mediators of the pain. So the B2 antagonists of the kinins block acute pain produced by bradykinin, but induced B1 receptors appear to mediate pain of chronic inflammation. So they can be also agents, especially in the therapy of the pain. And functional hyperemia is another terminology in glands during secretion and regulation of the microcirculation. So especially in case of kidney may be occurring through local kinin production. And the bradykinin antagonists are somehow rare, and the characterization of the bradykinin 1 receptors and several peptides and non-peptide kinin antagonists have been produced. The synthetic peptide HOE140, or it is also called as Ictibant. It's a selective B2 antagonist resistant to kinin degradation enzyme and having the longer T-half. So the Ictibant has been recently approved in Europe or European Union for the symptomatic treatment of hereditary angioedema. So this hereditary angioedema is common in certain persons, but it is coming as a hereditary gift from the parents. So Ictibant can be definitely, it is useful in case of the angioedema. And the few of the bradykinin antagonists are there. Of course, these are the one or two. The HOE140 is a coded product. It is named later as Ictibant as a generic name. And the bradykinin antagonists are Deltibond, it's a novel bradykinin antagonist used in the treatment of severe systemic inflammatory response syndrome and sepsis. And Ictibond, it is a synthetic decapeptide functioning as a potent competitive antagonist of bradykinin 2 receptors, and it is used in the management of the hereditary angioedema. So here the hereditary angioedema is one of the genetically derived disease in which the cardiomegaly is seen, which is unresponsive to the anti-CHF drugs, or else the angioedema is caused and the cardiac function is disturbed. So in that particular condition, the specific line of the treatment is Ictibond. So apart from this one, the Deltibond it's also a bradykinin antagonist used in the treatment of severe systemic respiratory inflammatory respiratory. So it's a specific drug for the severe systemic inflammatory response syndrome and also in severe sepsis. That's also very, very important. Whenever there is the toxemia is happening, then such drugs, Deltibond and Ictibond, can be used. So this is about the end of the autocoid pharmacology, and of course we have learnt about the prostaglandins, eicosanoids, platelet activating factor, calidin, kallikreins, then bradykinin and kinins. And apart from this one, we have also learnt about the drugs which are intervening in different procedures, especially the prostaglandin inhibitors like PGF2 alpha inhibitors and PGF2 alpha analogs and PGE2 analogs like misoprostol. So it's one of the important field, so that we can intervene at several times. So starting from the what you call as the drugs control to control the reproductive system till the antihypertensive drugs, there is a very wide variety of the drugs are there in the autocoid pharmacology. Of course, tomorrow we are going to learn about the prostaglandins synthesis or the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory agents, which are the inhibitors of cyclooxygenase 1 and 2 or the prostaglandin inhibitors. So that's one of the important chapter. Of course, we have to learn about the anti-inflammatory, analgesic and antipyretic drugs in short. So thank you so much for